Okay, so we are on page Kuf Nun Hey. And we'll start on the second line on the top. Which is not where we are up to, but this is where we're going to start in order to have a full approach. The principal phenomenon that we're discussing is that the way things are present and recognized and known, Lamailo, although it's very factual knowledge, to the extent that actually creates at its own level, it creates the reality itself. Like we said, b'koyach. And we discuss at great length the principle of b'koyach. Now, this principle of b'koyach is not a potential, but it's an actual. At a divine level. Having mentioned a divine level, I want to reiterate, although we didn't really discuss it very at great length. How do we come to a divine level? How are we expected to recognize a divine level of a presence? And for this, we used the very simple illustration of that which it says in the Torah, the first day of creation, that it was dark, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, without a luminary. It's not that subsequently there came a luminary. It is only to enable the world to accept it and not to feel completely disregarded. But in fact, this light illuminated and still does illuminate the world at a divine level. As you pointed out many times, that the illumination of day is a super kind of illumination. It cannot be duplicated on the world in worldly terms. It is light because God said, "Let it be light." This is a light which does not struggle with darkness, does not overcome darkness. It is a light that represents the fundamental reality of light. The fact that there is darkness preceding light is only on the worldly level. The world is chayut, because the world consists of worldly entities, and therefore these worldly entities are known only by touch, because there is no fundamental reality to them. They are there only as physical entities. Physical entities. Whereas the divine reality is a different kind of reality. It's not a created reality. It represents how things are in truth. What does that mean, how things are in truth? Again, we have to translate for ourselves. It's very difficult to express it in fullness, but you always have to try. In the world, when we encounter things in the world, we accept their existence by virtue of the fact that we encountered them. Taking our erstwhile example, we have no presence at the table because we cannot walk through the table. The table is standing there and blocking our path, and therefore we have to recognize that there is a table. There is something there, and then there is a table. What is the real truth of this table? The real truth is not an obstacle, a wooden obstacle. The real truth of this table is that it absolutely belongs there. It complements this place. It makes the place real. It has a profound human significance and more than even a divine significance. The reason we say a divine significance is because God created the world. He created the world. Hashem didn't create the world to be in the darkness and in the wilderness, but to be settled and developed on a human level. This whole phenomenon that he developed on a human level is really a divine principle in the creation. This is what the creation is all about. We must never lose the recognition, although it's inevitable that we lose it, but we must always remind ourselves of it. The world is a creation, and as such it represents the truth of its creator. The creator is recognized in the world, not after the fact. Since there is a world, therefore it has to be put there. The creator is recognized in the world because we see the world as such. It's a miracle presence. It's a superworldly presence. It's a presence that represents a fundamental truth at the divine level. And thus, since it's a fundamental truth, it is therefore absolutely recognizable from a spiritual perspective, what's called chokhmah, sight. As a matter of fact, without recognizing it or paying attention to it, sight is the most convincing human experience, although it's a totally intangible thing. The reason that sight is the most convincing human experience is, is because sight immediately alludes and relates you to one who brought this thing into being. Because if you see, that means it has a fundamental truth, it's not just a physical presence. We have given multiple illustrations of this in our own experience, within the worldly context. I will say a very simplest thing. If you come into a room and you see a setup, a human setup, tables and chairs and so forth, what do you see at first glance? The tables and chairs, or do you see a human presentation? Tables and chairs is nothing. They have no significance. They're not real. The human presentation is what you relate to. This is what you see when you first encounter it. And that is not due to the fact that it's beautifully set up. This is due to the fact that you recognize that there is somebody that set it up. And immediately I can draw up an element of respect. Oh, I'm in somebody's home. Something bigger here than what meets the eye, so to speak, meets the touch. This is the significance of light. Bring out the truth of the creation. That the creation be seen because it is a real creation, it's a divine creation. It is not a creation that comes into being when it affects you physically. It's a creation that is there, even on the sight level, as a reality. And you respect it as such because it is a creator. This truth and this light that God created the first day, this persists in the world all the time. All the time. And this is in fact the level, the world that we live in. This is the world that we relate to. As I mentioned many times, this is why when we bring things out in the world that are miraculous, like an airplane and so forth, we're not perplexed, we're not shocked by it, because the world is a divine creation. The secrets of what's contained in this world are still being discovered, still being revealed. This divine presence, contribution to the world, so to speak, is very real, and yet, from a worldly perspective, you don't recognize it. Despite all our experiences, we will still come back and say, you have to touch the things to be convinced to have it. Because it is our tendency to fall down to the world. And the reason we have that tendency is because we to relate to the divine element is a challenge. And the reason it's a challenge is because this is known as Chochmah. This is why we say Chochmah is the principal koyach of the human being. A human being must recognize that the truth that he is perceiving is in a level of Chochmah, on a level of sight. That's the truth. Our tendency is, immediately after seeing something, okay, so what's a tangible part of it? That is a mistake. Because the intangible part, this is the truth that was created. like we say all the time. Rishis Balakim is a Shomayim as all. And Shomayim is a real creation, divine creation, and nobody touched it. And he knows not to touch it. Shomayim and Oretz are on par. They're equal creations. The Oretz, as much as you think you know what Oretz, you don't know what Oretz is. Oretz harbors such hidden qualities that the world is still discovering and will continue to discover it forever. It's a living entity that is constantly refreshing itself, and every day it comes out as if it's a new creation. The world has not gotten any older over the 5,000 years. It's as fresh every day as on the day of creation. I'm repeating this because we're still in the middle of the senior, but it's worth repeating to awaken us, and to enable us to take, so to speak, the drastic step and say, yeah, this is the divine reality, this is what the world is. To whatever extent we can live up to that, it is all worth it, because this raises us to recognize some kind of a truth in our being. So the Rebbe says, the divine knowledge is on a level that's at a divine level, therefore it does not have an effect on the worldly level. And if we know things from a worldly perspective, we will not be affected, we will not recognize this divine level. In order to recognize the divine level, we have to actually focus in on the divine element. This is why we constantly need a motion to allow us to see, hey, there is something more to this world than meets the hand, so to speak. Not the eye, the hand. And then the latest thing that it says, the same thing is in from bitul. The entire existence, the entire worldly existence, is encompassed in what's called odom kadmon, a perception from an odom perception that this world has an odom quality. Odom quality means it has a purpose and has significance. And it has a whole huge structure, bottom to top, and top to bottom. All that is contained in this structure, is nil, which means it's a non-entity. It does not provide for itself, but for the fact that it is encompassed in this maki, what's called odom kadmon. This odom kadmon presence, this conjures up in all the entire creation the sense of bitul. Bitul means I do not have and I do not need my personal sense of existence, because it is completely, totally provided for by this makir. So therefore, from the vantage point of the entity itself, he is bottle. If he is bottle, then he should be totally focused on representing the maki, what is the purpose for which it was created. The Creator's view. And yet, he does not always represent that. He begins to do things and representing his own mitzvahs. And this is the wonder that we're confronted with. How can he focus in on his own mitzvahs when his own mitzvahs is bottle? It's a non-entity. So the answer is that this bitul is not murgosh, the third line from the top, and a murgosh klal b'nivroim. It is not sensed in the nivroim at all. The bitul of the ak and the presence of the ak and that which this truth that encompasses them is not sensitive. On the contrary, the way they sense themselves is to being temporary and very precarious existences. You don't realize that their existence is really the market that gives them right to be. They're indestructible presences. But in their own thinking, they are very vulnerable. And the more they recognize, they start thinking in terms of their own vulnerability, the more yes they become, and the more focus on their own being they come. And they lose sense of this bitul, of the reality that really makes them be. As always, we find some kind of a marshal that brings us out. We all have a goof, a body. And the body has all kinds of 613 parts that are coordinated together and work together. And we have to feed the body, we have to exercise it, all kinds of things. And that is our focus in terms of our well-being and health and so forth. Forgetting completely, not recognizing that the neshama is what really enables the body. We hardly pay attention to the neshama. Whereas in fact, this is what we're here for, to recognize the neshama aspect, to see the world from a neshama perspective. The reason this is so to speak, upside down, everybody knows that the neshama is the main thing. The minute as the neshama is taken away, the body is a lump of clay. And yet, we tend to lose sight of it. Because on the bodily level, we can't sense the neshama. The body does not know what the neshama is. It has no taste. He has no color. He doesn't know what it is. So if we know things by bodily experience, we lose sight of the neshama. And because we lose sight of the neshama, therefore, this is why we are capable of doing things totally contrary to the neshama's choices. The neshama is totally bottled to elokus. Okay, let's start the third line from the top. Even though even though in truth he is totally bottled, be'emes means through and through, on fundamental level, because of the tziyukim and the ab, because the ak is permeating. This is what his reality is, and yet it's conceivable that by choice, in his own choice, he will go in the opposite. so that he will be completely separate from elokus. How can one be separated from his own reality? V'zehorak, and this is only due she'nemurgesh habitul. Now this bitul and this union to this total non-entity of his own, and that his own presence is completely the elokus, is completely not sensed in him. Why is it not sensed to him? Because the physical world, the physical entity, is not capable of sensing the godliness. How do we sense godliness? This is already the higher koiches, the chokhmah being. But we do not easily allow ourselves to follow the chokhmah. We will have to verify the chokhmah by touch and by taste and by own worldly choices. This is why it's possible. He's not Margish man. Abo, the end of the fifth line. Abo but mikol mokoim. Yet still, the truth remains. Harehem b'teilim al koponim. They are al koponim in any way, whether they're conscious of it or not conscious of it. All the creatures are bottled completely in this Tzir Koyim De'ak. And therefore, Tzir Koyim De'ak, the Ak is what sustains them and gives them a presence and gives them permanent life. V'yesh lo'ima. The Rebbe says, V'yesh lo'ima. It's conceivable that we can explain with this bitul the following. The bitul says, this in an essential bitul has to be bitul because that's what they are, even though they don't sense a bitul. This bitul, even though they don't sense it, nonetheless, moil, it has the effect, and it enables al kolponim at the minimum sheyuchlu lekabel chayes melokus, that the creatures should be capable to receive chayes melokus. If not for this bitul, they will not be able to get the chayes melokus. Let's go to the next line and we'll have it stated clearly. Ukeneda, as is known, the hakeli, that the vessel, the receptacle, the kapal is achayes melokus, to accepting and receiving the chayes from elokus, who habitul davko. The keli for this is the bitul. Why is, let's step into this a little bit, why is a bitul such a great prerequisite to receive chayes from elokus? It is due to the principle that the chayes elokus does not possess, does not contain, does not consist of any worldly presence. Does not have a tangible presence. Like the Rambam expresses, the first principle is to know there's a first being. A first being has no presence, it never came into being. First being does not have any world level definition. It does not have any raw material from which it was made. As things are in the world. This, to receive chayut from elokus, from that which does not have the raw material that makes it be. It is only the truth itself. To receive chayut from that, you have to accept it. You have to be bottling and let it be mechayim, because there are no ways that you will sense it with your own faculties. Yeah. The bitul, I feel I have to go into just 1 second. The bitul is not the subjugation element. The bitul is simply the elimination of barriers that bar the elokus reaching you.
Barred? What's the word?
Prevent.
Uh-huh.
I can bring up many different mishonim for this, but we discussed it such a long time and think it's necessary. Now we have enough experience to bring it up from our own intelligence. Ultimately, that's what it's all about. We should be able to recognize in our own intelligence. The elokus is a reality beyond, not testable by worldly means. Not testable and not definable by worldly means. And thus, the real human experience, the human life, is not something that we can understand and have a tangible explanation of what it is. And the minute he tries to grasp hold of his chayus, he loses it. He's separating him, he's going away, he's going the other direction. Instead of going towards the chayus, he's going away from the chayus. Because this chayus is something which is provided for by the source of chayus, by the motzonish, which is an intangible and not unidentifiable entity. We don't know it from our own experience. We just know it as a first reality, as a first truth, a fundamental truth. Not by virtue of our knowledge, by virtue of acceptance, of recognizing by the chokhmah level, and even more than chokhmah, by emunah level. The entire world. It is extremely important for us to tell ourselves once and for all and repeat it as many times as necessary. The world is a divine miracle on a continuous basis. The minute we try to get hold and grasp what is the world, we'll lose it. We're going away from what the world is. This is what Rebbe says. That the keli for Kabbalah's highest elokus is the bitul davke. This is the keli. This is not being subjugated so that I will accept you. No, this is the only means by which you take it. You want to have chayus from elokus, which is not a worldly presence. Inattentional friend, how do you see it? Bitul, elokus is constantly providing to you with chayus elokus, except that you reject it because you want to be mitzias. The minute you accept him, saying bitul, yeah, I'm chayus, and then you have chayus from elokus. Okay, before I answer the back. And as the Pasuk says, Yiras Hashem or Yiras Hamayim Lechayim. Yiras Hashem. The Yira means fear. On a deeper level, Yira means fear of transgression.